Good day, everyone. Here is the news. This is the headline. All memos and letters to the president must pass through me, GAMBARI informs ministers and other presidential staff. Professor Ibrahim Agbola Gambari, the newly appointed Chief of Staff to the President Muhammadu Buhari, has resumed official duties today, Monday, May 18th, the Street Journal reports. Professor Gambari was appointed as the new Chief of Staff on Tuesday, May 12, 2020. His appointment came after the former Chief of Staff, late Abba Kyari, died on the 17th of April as a result of complications arising from the novel coronavirus. In a statement made during a meeting with officials of the Office of the Chief of Staff to the President today, May 18, the Chief of Staff said he was ready and willing to work with them if and only they are willing and ready to work with him. Professor Gambari said he would like individuals who were hardworking, responsible and loyal to his team, noting that working with individuals with lackadaisical and nonchalant attitude was not part of his agenda. Professor Gambari said he would only work with those whose loyalty would be directed to the President Buhari, just as he had promised to serve President Buhari dutifully. It will be recalled that Gambari said he would not be answerable to anyone except the President when he took the oath of office to serve. Headlines News 365 had earlier reported that the Professor Gambari said his primary allegiance would be to President Muhammadu Buhari and not the public. Gambari, who showed gratitude to the President for deeming him worthy to serve in his new capacity, added that he would put in his utmost best to serve the President. I thank the President of the Federal Republic for giving me the opportunity to serve him, and of course the country, he said. Gambari, who reiterated his loyalty to the President, said, "We have not started. I have to find out. I don't report directly to the nation. I report to the President." He said his loyalty, competence and support was he had offered the President, adding that his guiding principle as Chief of Staff would be to serve the President to the best of his ability. On assumption of his official duties, the Chief of Staff directed the officials that all memos which were directed to the President Muhammadu Buhari must pass through him. He stressed that under no circumstances should any document be given to the President. He noted that any document that would find its way to the table of the President must be assessed, evaluated, and duly signed and stamped by him. Professor Gambari explained that the President's directive that was in place during the time of his predecessor, late Abba Kyari, will stand. This presidential directive was that all ministers appointed by President Buhari must have to pass through the office of the Chief of Staff, and all appraisal reports from their various ministries must be directed to the Chief of Staff. This means that all of Nigeria's ministers do not have direct access to the President. However, they must pass through Professor Gambari before they can relay any information to the President. Headline News 365 believes that this has not gone well with all the ministers. We had exclusively reported that the ministers were lobbying for one amongst them to become President Buhari's Chief of Staff. However, Professor Gambari's appointment came as a shock to them. The reason the ministers were making this move was for the purpose of achieving better synergy. It is also stated that the ministers believe that the Chief of Staff to President Muhammadu Buhari, their full track decision in making decisions. The report quoted a top source as follows: "The argument is that it will enhance synergy between the President, his cabinet, since the ministers now report to the Chief of Staff." Findings from the report suggested that the ministers were not altogether satisfied with the way things went under the Chief of Staff, late Abba Kyari. Of course, no functionary can be scored 100%, but the minister's current disposition raises further skepticism over the performance of the late Abba Kyari, on whom many Nigerians have written several testimonials, both good and bad, since his death. It is important to know that, based on our investigation, none of President Buhari's aides or political allies were privy to the nominee of the Professor Ibrahim Gambari as possible replacement for the late Abba Kyari. According to our source, the choice of Professor Ibrahim Agbonla Gambari was suggested to President Muhammadu Buhari by Malam Issa Funtua and Malam Mama Daura, who many believe are the cabal running President Buhari's government. Following the successful completion of the meeting, all officials of the Office of the Chief of Staff assured Professor Gambari of the ultimate support and promised that their loyalty will go to President alone and nobody else. Gambari's appointment came with several congratulatory messages, including good wishes from former Senate President Dr. Bukola Saraki, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, and many others. A felicitation worthy of note was that from Lekan Ferdinand, a former general manager of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Mr. Ferdinand described the new chief of staff as a well-groomed diplomat who he has known for almost 3 decades. He is widely known, respected within the diplomatic and international community for his outstanding performances. He is an outstanding scholar who has delivered many papers on various topics. He has spoken in different forums about international relations, Nigerian unity, harnessing Nigerian great potentials, diversification of Nigerian economy, cultural diversity, religion, and authority. He believes that every Nigerian has a right as the other person, and as such respect for one's rights and maintenance of a disciplined society. He frowns at the abuse of public office, and to him, service to humanity is the greatest service of man. He believes that the leaders must show by example and deal with the people with fairness. He believes in conversation, sharing knowledge, and intellectual discourse as an instrument of involving participation from the bottom of the pyramid, Mr. Ferdinand said. While there are several reports that out of all political appointees of President Buhari, Professor Gambari is the only one who has the most impressive curriculum vitae, it is important for us to take note of his portfolio. Mr. Gambari, who was born in Ilorin, Kwara State on November 21, 1994, a Nigerian scholar, a diplomat, he attended King's College in Lagos and subsequently attended the London School of Economics, where he obtained his BSc Economics degree in 1968 with specialization in international relations. Gambari further obtained his MA in 1970 and PhD in 1974 from Columbia University, New York, USA, in political science and international relations. Gambari began his teaching career in 1969 at the City University of New York, working at the University of Albany, and later taught at Ahmadu Bello University in Zaria, Kaduna State, the second largest university in Africa. From 1986 to 1989, he was visiting professor at 3 universities in Washington, D.C., Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies, Georgetown University, and Howard University. He has also been a research fellow at the Brookings Institute, also in Washington, D.C., and a resident scholar at the Bellagio Study and Conference Center, the Rockefeller Foundation run center in Italy. He was accorded honors causa, the title of Doctor of Human Letters from the University of Bridgeport. He is a member of the Johns Hopkins University of Scholar. He was decorated with the title of Commander of the Federal Republic, CFRO, by the Nigerian government. The Chief of Staff was Minister for External Affairs between 1984 and 1985. He later assumed the position of the Permanent Representative of Nigeria to the United Nations and Chairman of the United Nations Special Committee on Peacekeeping Operations from 1990 to 1999. In 1999, Professor Gambari became the President of the Executive Board of UNICEF until the year 2000, when he was appointed Under Secretary General of the United Nations Special Advisor on Africa till 2005. He later became the Under Secretary General of the United Nations for the Department of Political Affairs from 2005 to 2007. Gambari was also appointed by the Secretary General of the United Nations, Ban Ki-moon, and the Chairperson of African Union Commission as Joint African Union United Nations Special Representative for Darfur. He was appointed the Special Advisor on International Compact with Iraq and other issues for the Secretary General of the United Nations. On March 4, 2013, Ibrahim Gambari was named by the Kwara State Governor, Abdul Fattah Ahmed, as the Pioneer Counselor of the Kwara State University, making him the ceremonial head of the university, who presides over convocations to award degrees and diplomas and also support the vision and mission of the university in all respects, including fundraising, socio-economic and academic goals. As a university that continues to gain credence as a community development university with world-class standard, the selection of Gambari with his outstanding intellect and exposure was expected to give the institution additional international boost and recognition. Gambari is also the co-chairman of the Albright Gambari Commission. Professor Gambari's life demonstrates a life of service both in Nigeria and international arena, and his recent interventions that seek to end conflict in Nigeria, Africa, and the rest of the world. His exemplary lifestyle, scholarship, integrity, diplomacy, knowledge-based effort to groom the youth whom represent the future are worth of emulation. He is generally spoken of as a selfless mentor, a guru, a golden man with a golden heart worth celebrating. One of his contributions to our understanding of Nigeria's foreign policy is the theory of concentric cycles, which he developed, an approach that places the interests of Nigeria first. The center of the cycles has Nigerian security, territorial integrity, and political independence. The second cycle embraces the West Africa region with the ECOWAS countries, and the third cycle is Africa, while the final one is the rest of the world. No wonder Dele Giwa once opined, emotions have no place in diplomacy. It is the stuff of the cunning and the amoral and even the intensely intellectual. The timid don't get involved in diplomacy. When they do, the countries suffer. Professor Gambari has deep religious belief and values, excellent interpersonal relationship, administrative sagacity, and intellectual fluidity gel together to produce an institution in his person. He will often say 1,000 friends are not enough, but one enemy is one too many. Professor Gambari has always asked questions like, how is the government engaging NGOs, civil society groups, and non-state actors in the change matter? Is there a national conversation held to reduce the huge and growing cost of governance at the local, state, and federal levels? His key principle is that one should only place in authority people that have shown a consistent commitment to the nation and its interests. Many believe that for President Muhammadu Buhari and his team to have selected Professor Gambari out of several other nominees they must have had in mind. It means that he is a lot of knowledge, experience, and President Buhari needs the drive to change the agenda for Nigeria. That is it now. So he's really he has actually good academic record. So one important thing, what Professor Gambari actually said, that nobody goes to see the president without his consent. So every file, every information, everything you need to do has to go through him before it gets to President Muhammadu Buhari. And he equally insisted that what he basically said was that everything his predecessor left behind will be adhered to, because it was Abakari that actually put that law in place that all memos, all ministers that want to see Buhari, whatever they want to do, they have to go through him. So he is equally following suit. So that's basically what it is. And he also encouraged those that are working with him that they have to be loyal to the president. That's why he's there. So for you to be able to work with Professor Gambari, you have to be loyal to him, and because he is going to be loyal to the person that gave him the appointment, which is the president. So that's basically it. So he has resumed office. So kindly leave your comments, what you think about his statements in the comment section. Thanks for listening. Follow us on our page, Everyday Event. Thank you and God bless you. Bye.